rain. Let's bring in CP24's Nick Dixon with more on this. Nick.
Well, that satellite imagery really tells you something, but we're going to get the full story now from Matthew Capucci. He's a meteorologist with the Washington Post. He is live in Gulf Shores, Alabama. Matthew, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. What is the situation where you are right now?
Nick, thanks so much for having me. We're seeing widespread wind damage here in Gulf Shores, not even near the immediate coastline. I'm about 2 kilometers inland right now, and yet you see significant structural damage here. We had gusts overnight to 140 to 150 kilometers per hour, as well as widespread rainfall. Now, I was driving down earlier on, about probably a quarter of all the trees, and these are big trees, half a meter thick, are toppled. Some of them snapped by the force of the wind, and others just pushed over because all the rainfall we had, up to 50 centimeters, made it easier for those roots to come right out of the soil.
Okay, two things. One, thanks for converting to metric system. We do appreciate that. But secondly, what does that tell you about the force of that storm, and is there a concern that it could come around again?
Yeah, we spent multiple hours, at least about 4 or 5 hours, in the eye itself because this thing was moving only about 3.5 kilometers per hour, going very slowly. Now, one thing you'll notice, all the trees are felled from east to west because we had very strong easterly winds on the leading edge of that eye wall, and that's when we were seeing those gusts over 130, 140 kilometers per hour. Right now, we're in the backside of the eye wall. You can see it's misting around me right now. It's not as bad as it was earlier on because we have some dry air wrapping into the circulation, and that's weakening the rainfall a bit. Because of that, we're not able to drag down quite as strong winds, but still, we've seen gusts erratically between 70 and 90 kilometers per hour in just the past half hour, and I anticipate we'll still see some gusts for the next about 3 or 4 more hours here.
So is your belief then, Matthew, that the worst may be over when it comes to Sally, because now that Sally's inland, she can't get back over water to sort of regenerate?
Yeah, that's both a blessing and a curse. A blessing because right now it's removed from its fuel source, which means it can't strengthen wind-wise. Its air pressure will start to come up. It's kind of like when you swirl your coffee in the morning when you're stirring something. That vortex will start to come back up as it weakens. But at the same time, it's moving over land. It's dumping buckets of rainfall. We've already seen historic flooding in this area, and I expect that as this travels into the southeastern United States and even to the Carolina Piedmont, the Atlanta area, we'll still see about 10 to 15 centimeters worth of rainfall with localized 20-centimeter amounts, which could be really problematic.
Absolutely. And let's talk about, you're in a really low-lying part of the U.S. I mean, the Gulf Coast there, some of it is almost below water. How much more significant flooding do you expect to see there over the next 24 hours or so?
Well, apropos to storm surge, we still have the surge affecting us, and we have to remember there are multiple high and low tides per day, but storm surge is very local. So east of the center, where the winds are from the south pushing that water ashore, we've seen about a 2 to 2.5 meter storm surge, and that's actually severed part of the highway down to the Florida Panhandle, which is really bad news. Major bridges washed out. In Mobile Bay, which is where I'm on the periphery of, we actually saw an anti-surge, if you will, because they saw the western side of the eye wall that pulled winds from the north, pushed the water out of the bay, and you actually had water levels drop 2 meters. And so you have dry ground where ordinarily you'd have, a pretty good amount of the bay. So it's amazing to see just how localized that effect is, and that will continue. It'll get better throughout the next couple hours, but still, really bad news unfolding right now, and it'll be a while before people can get back into the area. In fact, police have blocked off the roadway getting into downtown. They're not letting anyone in for fears of looting, even media as well.
Right, so it's good that you're in there behind that line already. What are you hearing about any casualties or any issues with evacuations? Does anybody need to be rescued that you're aware of, or is that sort of most people got out in time?
I think a lot of people underestimated the strength of the storm, both because it was forecast to be Category 1, but people always seem to forget just how bad the surge can be. And in this case, you had surge throwing water inland, you had freshwater flooding, resulting in water rising away from the shore, and the two kind of met near the coast, and that's led to really significant water issues. We've heard of a number of water evacuations ongoing right now, and I know the police are kind of maxed out in their efforts trying to help people who either drove through flooded roadways or just need help getting out of whatever predicament they're in.
All right, Matt Capucci live in Gulf Shore, Alabama. Great to talk to you this afternoon. Thanks for the report.